Hey guys, remember a while back I reviewed some of my T Rexes? Well, the collection has progressed to the stage where it's time I did another. Why? Because of these guys. Now notice one interesting thing they have in common. Here's a clue if I zoom in a little closer. Feathers. Yes, alas, for those of us who grew up in the 80s, our childhood memories of scaly, or at least naked reptilians, are fast becoming images of the past. The trend now seems to be to endow dinosaurs with plumage of some degree or other. And while this idea started creeping into our psyche via avian dinosaurs like Microraptor or Archaeopteryx, or maybe they got a foot in by way of tail quills on the Psittacosaurus, it's starting to pervade interpretations of non-avian theropods. And with fossil evidence of tyrannosauroid dinosaurs like Tilong and Eurotyrannus, it seems inescapable that the mighty Rex himself had plumage. And of all the manufacturers out there, I must say Collecta has taken the lead in producing high-quality replicas of the feathered kind. The result? These guys. Now my personal collection favors the 1/40th scale, so to start off we have this, the Collecta Deluxe 1/40th scale feathered T-Rex. While early experimental artwork featured modest feathers and filaments here and there, it's increasingly in vogue to show dinosaurs with full body plumage. And while we still don't know how extensively T-Rex was feathered, Collecta didn't go by halves. They showed full commitment to the cause by jumping into the deep end. You know, in business, one of the catchphrases is embracing change, and Collecta's the poster boy for that in dinosaur replica companies. Now this guy is big. He's 32 centimeters long, and at first I thought maybe he was a bit too big for the 1/40th scale for that. If you compare him to my Dance Dinosaurs T-Rex here, also of 1/40th scale T-Rex, you'll see that he's actually a little bit bigger. However, if you use Sue's 12.3 meters as a reference, then yes, I'd say it's still around 1/40th scale, so let's just say he was a big guy even for a T-Rex. Now, the color is pretty garish, as you can see. The body and tail are quite conservatively colored, but then you have these green feathers, and you have a red fiery red mohawk, and I don't know, this complementary color scheme clashes a little bit too much for my taste, and I'm not sure if it's the kind of coloration you'd find on a predator. And then you have these black stripes down here, down the sides of the face and the top of the nose. I'm not sure that's not carrying the painted warrior idea a little bit too far. Still, it's interesting, and I've grown to see past that to what is a very impressive figure indeed. Now, as you can see, he's completely covered with plumage, and also I wanted to show you how well sculpted the details are. Okay, except for the legs, the fingers, and the face. Feathers cover everything else. They vary in size and shape regionally. For instance, you'll see longer, thicker. I'm also tempted to call this fur. You'll see that his head has longer, thicker fur or feathers, which becomes smaller as you progress caudally, and finer as well. The scalation is very well sculpted too. If you look at the underbelly, there's also variation in the legs here, and whoa, the face. That's really, really intricate work there. So there's really no skimping or taking the easy way out with Collecta on this one. One very nice feature is that the mouth does open. We've all seen the stereotypical mouth open roar, and I like a natural mouth closed appearance at times. because you have to imagine that the actual ratio of time spent in life actually roaring is probably very minuscule. Now, this feature allows you to have both, and because of the wild coloration, the discontinuity in color isn't really that obvious. Now, anatomically, I like the proportions, from the shape of the head, the teeth. Look at that detail, man. Wow, very nice. The size of these tiny fingers, adorned with still some forearm feathers here. Of course, Collecta is famous for having fat hips in order to balance the model. They don't have to do that because it's supported on the base here, so that's really good. So proportions pretty good. I think the tail is a bit long, and there's still an unfortunate shrink-wrapped appearance in the head of the animal, and I thought that modern sculptors were a lot more careful these days to avoid that. But you know, it's really easy to ignore. My only complaint is this weird shaped gum. Now you can see here that it's convex. Okay, maybe from here, giving it a very odd look. You know, I think it would work a lot better if it was actually convex. The pose itself is dramatic. It's walking while veering left. Very nice curves. Very nice curves to the animal. The legs are nicely poised so that the underlying tension and potential action is visible from any angle. If there's something to complain about, it's these seams that separate the thigh from the leg. Now, I don't know what's up with that. It's actually quite ugly, but again, after a while, you know, you learn to ignore it. Generally, it's a really nice big model to have, with nice accurate proportions, fine detail, and an active pose that makes him a pride to display. So that's it for the Collecta 1/40th. Very nice. To jump to the other end of the side scale, here we have a tiny little guy, the T-Rex Juvenile. He's only 10 centimeters long, and his little thin legs belie the enormous tree trunks they will become to eventually support 6 or 7 tons. Now, the proportions are appropriate for a baby, with a proportionately smaller head and longer arms and legs that look almost thin and frail. Now, given it's a chick though, it's appropriate. I can't speak intelligently as to the scale since I don't know how big the real thing was supposed to be. But you know, I think it will make a very nice diorama post next to the 1/40th, the 1/40th scale T-Rex. Like the adult, this one is covered in feathers, and you can see the green and red reflecting what the adult coloration will become. There are also brown spots on the flanks and brown stripes on the tail, which presumably disappear into adulthood. You know, detail is really nice on this thing. Show you the feathers here, further down, and just look at the teeth. It's really small, but it's very nicely painted. Very nice figure to have. Now, this is a really nice dinosaur. The detail and quality is representative of how far Collecta has come. My only complaint, its tendency to warp. Now, these thin legs don't give much resistance to the creep that eventually happens, and this is how he'll look like after a while. And I have to constantly reapply the hot water technique to get him here to this stage where he can stand, and even then he doesn't last very long. So that's a little irritation, to be sure, but still I recommend him. Finally, let's look at the hunting T-Rex. Now, this is a smaller figure than the Deluxe, and although not from any official scale line, he's 22 centimeters. So again, using Su as a real size equivalent, we have approximately a 1 to 55th scale. Again, proportions are very, very pleasing. As I mentioned in my earlier videos, I always look first at the arms to see if they're minuscule enough, and here indeed they appear to be. You can see the very fine detail here in the fur, in the teeth, even at this smaller scale. And if you look, if I can just capture the lighting correctly, not sure if you'll be able to see this on screen, but the eyes, you can see how glossy and lifelike they look. And this is truly a pleasure to see on such a smaller T-Rex. And the location of feathers is the same as with the Deluxe, and detail is likewise very well executed. It is a little different in coloration though. It's missing the red mohawk, and also present the tail stripes and the spotting here that we saw on the Juvenile. So is this intended to be an intermediate growth stage? Well, it's kind of charming to think so. Actually, something I just noticed that I didn't notice before are the feathers, the quality of the feathers on the hunting T-Rex. Now these are longer and actually quite a bit finer than the 1 to 40th scale T-Rex. In contrast, I'd say they look right down downy. So in fact, I think that gives credence to the idea that this is in fact an intermediate stage between the juvenile and the adult. Even though I think the skull proportions look a bit too adult, still it's a nice thought to have these three together as one happy hunting family. And I think you do well to display all of these together. Honestly, I can't believe how good collectors' models have become, and yet how relatively cheap as well. Like this guy, for instance, I bought him from the UK, and he was only 3.3 pounds. And it's almost criminal how affordable it is. I've been buying much of what comes out each year from Collecta, and next year promises to have some really amazing specimens, like the gigant Spinosaurus, 1 in 40th scale Styracosaurus. About high time we had a really updated representation of this amazing ceratopsian. Inosaurus, another ceratopsian I've been looking forward to, just to name a few. So that's video 49, and I hope I'll be able to round out the year with video 50, which has to be, I think, something really special. I'll take care, my friends. Have a really great last few days to 2016, and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas in advance. Hey, that red that red and white just reminds me of Christmas for some reason. Alright, see you guys soon.